Welcome back, everyone, to season 4 of Connecting with Purpose, where we're putting founders first. So we're sharing those stories of the humans behind the business, and specifically how founders and their leadership teams continue to revitalize performance, sometimes against the odds, in order to realize the results that they need. And today, I'm really excited to be joined by Sara Jensen, who is the co-founder of Hugh Grace, along with her husband, Ben. And Hugh Grace is a brilliant science-backed wellness platform and an entire community that promotes hormone health and holistic preventative wellness. And their origin story is so inspiring, and no doubt you're going to hear about that shortly. Hugh Grace has been featured all over the place: Wall Street Journal, Forbes, USA Today. They've won loads of awards, more than I can count, certainly on one hand and maybe even on two, but including fastest growing impact company, top mission company, most transformative company. They're one of the fastest growing companies in California. There is a reason for that, and you're going to hear about it today. Sara and I met a couple of years ago at Real Leaders Unite in San Diego. And I've just been following their incredible growth ever since. So I'm really excited to have Sara here. Thank you, Sara, for joining me on Connecting with Purpose.
Thank you for having me, Mark. It's great to see you.
Yes, it's great to see you too. And with that, we're going to dive right into Magic Moments. We always kick off with this. It's a way of really telling your story through the lens of 3 moments that when you look back on it with the benefit of time, you'd score them a 10 out of 10. Now, it doesn't mean they're necessarily magic in that they were all absolute incredible peak experiences, although they absolutely could have been. It's really more that they, because they could have been challenges or real kind of traumas even that you had to overcome. But the reason you score them a 10 out of 10 is because of sort of how you dealt with them in the moment, and because of the impact that they had on what came next. So when you think back, you can go back as far as you like. If you had to pick 3 magic moments that are really defining in terms of helping you get to where you are today, what would they be? What is it about them that made them magic? And if you had to give them a name, what would you call them?
Okay, I'm going to do personal and professional.
Yes.
Okay, so I think the most transformative magic moment was when, it's interesting. You'll hear my story also as I kind of go through this, but my husband and I, we've been married for a very long time, but struggled with unexplained infertility for 14 years. And I didn't tell anyone in our family. We both come from very large families, but it was so painful for us, month after month, failure after failure, where I didn't want to share with anybody because I didn't want anyone to ask me any questions where I have to confide in them or report back to them. And so with that, we also distanced ourselves from our families. We stopped going home for holidays. We stopped seeing them. And my mother-in-law had reached out to us several times and said, can you come to this vacation, or can you come over to this place? And we kept saying no. And finally, she said, well, then just come for 2 days to the Grand Canyon for a hike. And we're going to have, she'd recently remarried, and we're going to have 2 Ben step siblings there. And we said, okay, that's the shortest amount of time possible that we can go. So we drove in from Los Angeles. And we landed we got in at 1 a.m. And Ben and I do not necessarily enjoy hiking. So it wasn't something that we were really wanting to do. And we were hiking, and my mother-in-law had just recently remarried. So I really didn't know my his 2 new step siblings. And we were hiking, and Ben was ahead with her kids, and her name, Jenna, is my new stepsister-in-law. And she asked, she said, do you guys want kids? And it was innocent. It wasn't, I didn't feel judged. And I was the very first time I ever shared with anybody in our family. And I said, we've been trying for 10 years. We want to do another round of IVF. We're starting to look at adoption, just nothing has ever worked. And right then and there, she said, we're family. I'd be happy to be your surrogate. And I'm like, and I actually didn't think she was serious. So I'm just like, that is so nice of you. Yeah. But fast forward, I didn't tell my husband about it. A week later, she called me because I didn't think she was serious, first of all. And she called me and said, I talked to my husband and my employer, my kids, and done all the research. We want to do this. And she later gave birth to our son. But it was one of those moments where I hadn't shared. I did so quiet, and then sharing with somebody who I didn't really know. I mean, she was family, but not close family. And that one moment changed our lives forever. And so it's and led to the start of our business, but it was me learning that vulnerability can bring upon like amazing miracles.
Yeah. What would you call that? What name would you give that moment?
Heart.
Yeah.
We named our son Hugh. It's actually, so Jenna's, her great grandfather was the patriarch of the family and an incredible man, and his name's Hugh, and the name Hugh means heart, mind, and spirit. And so it really was, and surrogacy is the greatest gift of love that can be given, in my opinion.
I mean, yeah, it's mind-boggling to think that. I mean, it feels like there was a confluence of factors all kind of converging together that gave you the confidence to answer the question honestly, and probably helped to ask it in the first place. But the fact that she was able to make that level of life-changing commitment, having just met you, is incredible. So heart is number one. Right, how do you follow that? What's magic moment number two?
So I worked in philanthropy. I had my MBA from USC, University of Southern California, and I worked in philanthropy, and I loved my career. I was, I covered 25 states, and I was meeting with some of the most influential people in the world and helping them leave transformative, their legacy gifts, whether it was naming buildings or creating programs or scholarships. But I always had this drive to start a new company, start something for us. And when we first, our whole company focuses on hormone health. When we first learned about the topic of hormone disruption and hormone health, we were just thinking of hormones and fertility. And I said, Ben, we need to start this fertility company. And he's like, and he had a very successful career that he loved. And he's like, I'm not starting a fertility company. I'm not leaving my job to start a fertility company. And so I found another female business partner in Los Angeles, very accomplished, very connected. And we conceptualized it, and Ben stayed on. So it was going to be 33%. And we were working to put together this fertility wellness company. And this is, 8+ years ago. And we had everything ready. We were going to go meet with a bunch of VCs. We had a whole week plan. We were going to start in San Francisco, end in Los Angeles. We had leveraged our networks. We had a whole deck. We took a photo shoot together for, me and this other, female business partner for the pitches. And the night before the trip, so Saturday night, I get a text from her that says, unless I get 51% of the company, I'm canceling everything.
Ooh.
And the original business idea had come from me and Ben. But I felt like I needed a female business partner, so we brought her in. So we had done a huge amount of the work prior to her even coming on. And I'm like, I can't do this. And we had a lot of mutual friends in common. This is what I thought we were starting this business. We had our flights booked, hotels booked, meetings booked. And Ben and I had both resigned from our careers to do this and invested money into the business, and had to call it and say, no, we're not doing this. And the whole next week was one of the hardest weeks of my life, because like, you think you put all this investment in, and you like, this is what you think life's going to be, and you thought this person's going to be your business partner and create these amazing things together, and then for that to happen last minute when she knew the work and value that we had brought to the company, and so that one sucked.
Yeah.
But it was also that week of, because when we first learned about when we were initially learning about the topic of hormone disruption and endocrine disrupting chemicals, we were just really thinking about fertility, because our whole experience of 14 years with unexplained infertility. But that week actually caused us to dive into a lot more research, where we saw these chemicals were linked to anxiety and depression, autoimmune diseases and cancers. And that's actually, that week was really saying, do we still really believe in this concept? And Ben, are you and I going to create something together that when we realize this topic is so much more broad and more important? Or are we going to go back and try to get jobs and and figure out life that way? And this is with the newborn. Grace was 1 month old, and Hugh was turning 2 that month. And so this was like very stressful situation. But it was, I mean, I probably named that one transformative, because we had to really say, do we believe in ourselves? Do we believe in what we're going to create, where even though it's not with a person or with the funding or with the, kind of going back and starting from scratch, like minus.
Yeah.
say is this really what's going to happen? And it was
indeed transformative. Brilliant. I'm going to come back to these in a minute. So all right, number 3.
I have a few. I'm trying to figure out which one's the most relevant for listeners. I'm actually going to go back to personal. So I told you I didn't tell anybody in our families, and I'm the oldest of 6 kids. I have 4 sisters and a brother, and I am very close to my second sister. We're just under 2 years apart, and we were neighbors at college, and double dated, and we're really, really close. But she actually got married before I did. But when she started having kids, I started distancing myself from her, and kind of the same thing. And with my sister-in-law, it actually took her, 3 attempts to get pregnant and multiple surgeries. And it was over a year-long process from the time she volunteered till when she was actually pregnant. And I remember the person I was the most scared to tell was my sister, Michelle, because I felt like she would judge me. I felt like, I had a great career, but she had, 3 kids, and we were just living such different lives. But I thought that she would judge me for having a surrogate or not, like, and because I'm an ultra marathoner. I can do hard things, and it was just such it's weird as a woman to, not experience life the way you think it's going to happen, especially with pregnancy. And so I was like shaking, calling Michelle. And so I call her, I said, Michelle, we're having a baby, and it's our baby, but Jenna is carrying it, our child. And she said, Sarah, how come you never asked me? I said, Michelle, I could never ask anybody to be a surrogate for me. I could never, involves your family and friends. So we kind of brushed off that. But a year later, Michelle then called and volunteered to be our surrogate and carried our daughter. And I shared this experience because, again, it was just that vulnerability of saying, like, how come you didn't tell me earlier? How come you didn't share information with me where that I could have made a decision of whether if I could have helped you or not? And maybe this story isn't that helpful just for readers who don't want surrogacy, but it was it was interesting because here I was during our pregnancy where I'm not showing, I don't have a belly. And I hadn't told anybody that we were trying to ever get pregnant. And when sharing that we were expecting and a family member was carrying our baby, we had so many people come to us and say, I struggle with depression or other major health issues. And everyone we shared with had a real problem. And it was that opening of us where we really formed deeper relationships, not surface level, but there's a lot of empathy, there's a lot of learning and a lot of connection. And so it was that where it was just a reminder again of having to be honest, and what would I name that one? I almost feel complete.
Yeah.
That's what completed our family, but it was also a complete kind of 360 to the helping get rid of the fear and the fear of judgment.
Yeah, I mean, it's so I want to dig into this almost like it's almost like a cycle of emotional contradictions, right? That you've just shared with us there, because between heart, transformation, and complete is three magic moments. There's a level of vulnerability that you needed to even have the confidence just to share, and maybe that had even come from, there might have even been some fear of like disconnection from family and all these people that have been important in your life that sparked you wanting to be vulnerable enough. But there's an identity element around this. There's a kind of a belief element around this. There's a resilience element around this. I mean, there's so many really deep emotions, right, which we'll be able to pull on, I'm sure, as part of your entrepreneurial journey. But what is it? What is it about opening up about infertility? Let's just start there. That is just so incredibly hard for people to do. Like, I know everyone has their own context and their own challenges, but what is it that makes it so hard, and what ultimately do you feel gave you the confidence to be vulnerable and just say it how it is?
Well, I think it's interesting. I'll speak from my experience, but it was a physical want, a craving to have kids, and not being able to have it, and then seeing friends have kids and family members have kids, and then all of a sudden their whole lives, your father, your life revolves around your kids and birthday parties, and just I went through cycles and cycles and cycles of friends because I couldn't relate to them. And then I grew up thinking that I was going to be a stay-at-home mom of 4 kids, and yet I couldn't get pregnant, and I had never even really considered a career, and saying like, oh, I guess I need to work, or I'd never considered graduate school. I said, oh, I guess I should go to graduate school. But like it was trying to create my identity, where I thought my identity would be to be a mom. My daughter Grace is 6, and she says she wants to be a mom when she grows up. I mean, she's playing with her dolls, and that's not me instilling it on her. It was just this real want. And when you can't have what you want, and then also I think there's so much more information out there right now, but people would, if they heard that we were trying, they say, well, whose fault is it? I'm like, infertility is not anyone's fault. Yeah. It's never a fault. But it was, I as a woman, I always thought like, well, my role is to get pregnant and to be a mom. And I told Ben multiple times, I said, Ben, divorce me. You want kids. I can't give you kids. Find someone who can make you happy. And it was really difficult in our marriage. It was also really difficult as an individual. And that's why, like, I was an ultra marathoner. I stopped running. I made huge lifestyle changes, all trying to get pregnant. We spent every dime on therapy and acupuncture and doctor's appointments, and like just trying to figure out what. And so that internal, like, when you want something so badly and you can't have it, and then like monthly failure after failure, and that it was hard because I didn't want to share with people, because then they would ask me about it, and then I'd have to explain, nope, it didn't work again. Or although looking back, I mean, now there are a lot more support communities and people who can relate to each other. And so I wish I had, and not to say like if you share that you're struggling with IVF or with fertility that someone's going to volunteer to be your surrogate. That's not at all. I mean, I know how fortunate I am, but I remember it was like our eighth year trying to get pregnant. And we had just gone through a failed IVF cycle, and we walked out of therapy, and I just was sobbing. I'm like, I was mid-30s. I'm like, I don't know. Every day you feel like I'm being older, my egg quality. Ben held me, and he said, Sarah, he goes, are we going to be parents of genetic children that you give birth to, or are we gonna be parents? And in that moment, I just remember like breathing. I'm like, we'll be parents. And then like a huge weight was lifted off our shoulders, because had you asked me that year 1 or year 2, I'm like, no, I'm giving birth to, like, this is what I want in life. But I have so many close friends who've adopted or had embryo adoption or some foster children. But like there are more ways now to become a parent than there ever have been in the past. And so it was also kind of reevaluating goals.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, it just sounds to me that from your experience, you spent one half of your life trying to rebuild a new identity and career because the one you thought you'd assumed you would just be able to live, right? And why wouldn't you? You're like, well, I now need to get a job, and I need to get this degree, and I need to do this, and I need to do this, and I've got to prove to myself that I can be this person. But at the same time, you're still trying to do everything you can to reinvigorate the original identity you wanted to live. And so that makes it just so challenging, that for obvious reasons, then you don't want to have those conversations, because you just want to sort of try to do what you need to do over here, focus on this piece, and not have to unpack the whole story every time you have a conversation with somebody. And so this is one of the brilliant reasons why your organization has so much impact, because it's not just now about hormone-related infertility challenges, but having done that transformative magic moment of that hardest week and the deeper dive, do we really believe in this? You're able to see so many strong correlations of other hormone health challenges that so many people face that probably they weren't sharing. And so when you sort of look at what Hugh and Grace is today, was it 8 years?
4.5.
4.5. Okay, so it's right. Okay, so four and a half.
Well, so it took a while. So that was 8 years when we were conceptualizing. It took a while. We worked with her for about a year before she pulled the plug.
Got it.
And then we had to reevaluate. And we were supposed to launch May of 2020, but then COVID hit and our investors pulled out. So then we launched May of 21.
Okay, so brilliant. Thanks for clarifying that. So okay, so 4 years. Where are you today, and what are you most proud of?
Today we are, this is really cool. We're going next weekend. So one of the awards we won was the Inc. 5000 fastest growing companies in America. We placed number 1051 overall, which puts us in the top 0.02% of fastest growing companies. But the thing I'm proud of is that we're categorized in the healthcare and medical department, not consumer products. And so if you think about it, Hugh and Grace provides a lifestyle solution for hormone health, which we offer hair care, skin care. Well, wellness is our number one selling product, but wellness, home care, skin care, and hair care. And if you think about it, it's a really holistic preventive wellness. And we have so many diseases now, and those diseases a lot of times are accumulated by the number of chemicals, toxic chemicals we're exposed to on a daily basis. The average American woman puts on 12 products a day, which is over 160 chemicals a day. The average man puts on over 80 chemicals a day, and we're exposed to hundreds more in our environment. And so we provide consumable products that are great for men, women, children during pregnancy that help not only reduce this toxic chemical exposure, but products that are hormone supportive and really help your hormone system. And so we're categorized. So I'm proud that we are now being approached by medical institutions, by doctors, by insurance providers, where we're creating this lifestyle approach that leads to a healthier lifestyle. It's longevity. And then also what we've created with our community. We were trying to figure out, because we were really conceptualizing the business 7-8 years ago and saying, what does this look like? And even starting to look at product formulations and testing, and no one was talking about hormone health back then. People are starting to talk about it now, but there's going to be a lot more conversations in the future. And we said, if we're truly providing a solution to a problem most people don't know they have, we need to create awareness. There's education, there's content, community, and products. And we said, well, that's direct sales. And we said, well, how do we elevate and modernize direct sales? How do we marry direct sales with affiliate marketing? How do we make it where we meet people where they are, whether it's a retail location or affiliate, or people who are earning commission based on performance. But so it's only performance based, just like every other sales, office, attorney's office. But this community that we've created, we've grown all authentically word of mouth. We have never spent $1 on any digital ad spend or paid social. And we have over 10,000 people in our community who it's interesting because they'll hear our story facilitates other people's stories. So whether it's a breast cancer survivor, whether it's someone who has an autistic child, someone struggling with ADHD, someone struggling with depression, or someone who just cares about hormone health. And like our book just recently came out, and it's called Hormone Health Simplified: Simple Swaps to Improve Your Physical, Mental, and Sexual Health. And people are realizing that hormones impact your mental health and physical health and sexual health. And there are really simple things people can do today to improve your hormone health, whether that be swapping out some products, or box breathing, or getting sunlight, or spending time with people you love. I mean, there are so many simple things that we can do that make an impact, where I think a lot of consumers are very overwhelmed and don't know where to start or what to do. We provide really simple solutions, but this is a very long answer to your question, but with the knowledge, by providing knowledge, but also creating a supportive community, has been the thing that I'm most proud of.
Yeah, so to summarize, the Inc. 5000 award isn't just the award of being in the top 0.25% because you're
0.02, yeah, 0.02%.
0.02 because you're 1051, but it's actually the credibility that comes from being in the healthcare and medical space, that essentially you proved initially through research and belief and the creation of products that these products are going to impact people's mental, physical, social, sexual health. But then you were able to prove that with some credibility around the community, and that's now being validated by basically industry sectors engaging with you, proactively engaging with you, which is obviously has opportunities to amplify where you go next, and we'll get into that. But that's incredible. The 10,000 people in the community is huge amplification of stories and awareness, and most importantly, it's authentic, it's relational, right? It's people first, and that is going to just continue to multiply your impact. Just to give us some context on this, 10,000 people in the community, like what's the business growth been like? What's the revenue growth been, if you're comfortable sharing that with people?
Insane.
Yeah.
I should say so. No, but we received the fastest growing impact company award, and we were up against some very large brands. We hit the 0.02% of fastest growing companies in America, and they look at the past 3 years of revenue and benchmark it against tens of thousands of companies that apply for the award.
Yeah.
It's also interesting. I'm speaking in Dubai later this month at a longevity conference, and we're talking about adherence, because there's so many wellness brands out there. There are so many products, but the fact that we have our number one selling set is called The Routine. It's 3 products, takes 1 minute every morning to take every single day. People, if they buy The Routine, it's a hydrate detox drink mix. You add it to water, mix with water. There's a supplement, and then you can choose either a collagen or a protein. And those products together, if people start with that product, over 70% of consumers repurchase again. Over 50% of our revenue is on subscription. That because people, they feel a difference, it tastes great, and then we have a less than 1% return rate. I mean, and so not only do we have this amazing community that have products that offer real health benefits, but people are actually taking the products. They're not just buying the products and letting them sit on their counter, and they're reordering, and our reorder rate and our subscription rate grows every single month.
Yeah, that retention's incredible. I mean, that absolutely huge. So I would, I mean, I'd love to dig in that a little bit further. When you fast forward and you're kind of looking at, we've already had this growth and we've already got this award, and like, I mean, where do you go from here? Like, what does success look like in 3 years' time? In terms of the results that you're looking to achieve, whether they're like revenue growth, growth of the team, growth of your community, growth of your products, growth of retention, like what are some of the key metrics that you're sort of working towards over the next whatever time period you're looking at, 2-3 years?
So we're already in Canada, pre-launch Canada, so we'll have an official launch in Canada. There's a lot of other countries that are really interested in our products and our approach to hormone health. We're being asked to speak at a lot of places. We were talking before this about in crazy travel schedule, which I do not want to keep. I don't want to be doing that the next 2 to 3 years. But I do think it's such an important topic and people's interest. And so we are looking at even creating communities outside our advocate community, with the book. We have my passion, our passion is education. And because the more you learn, the better you do. And even our business model with our advocate community, it's interesting because I had never been in direct sales before. And I think some people think direct sales and they think of old MLMs, and that's not the case whatsoever. Direct sales, I told you, is performance-based, it's community, but everything's based on performance. But we have amazing subgroups of communities within our community of breast cancer survivors. I told you this, but it's really helping people understand also. We have a lot of stay-at-home moms who are selling our products, who never had a career really before, and now they're achieving ranks and they're earning incentive trips, and they're coming to our conferences where we offer personal and professional development. And when someone accomplishes something they didn't know they could achieve, they become more self-confident. And they become a better. I remember this is on one of our first incentive trips. Because our incentive trips, you can earn a trip for one or a trip for two, and you can bring a guest, a partner, whoever you want to bring. And a husband came up to us, and he said, actually to my husband, Ben, and he said, Ben, he goes, I'm in sales, and I've taken my wife all over the world on these presidential circle events. And he said, my wife had never worked before, and she found Hugh and Grace, and she's passionate about health and wellness. And he goes, she earned this trip for both of us. He goes, I've never been more proud to be here as her guest. She said she's a better mother, a better wife. She's more involved in the community, but it's given her a sense of purpose and passion that he hadn't seen before. And there's so many of those stories within our community of people doing things they never, thought they could.
Yeah, I love that, and that is a particular beautiful tee up, because I wanted to, given everything you've achieved and everything you should quite rightly be incredibly proud of, when you think about purpose and your purpose, and this shows up differently for everybody, because some people have a very explicit purpose statement like I do, and a kind of a plan that sits on top of it. For other people, it's just more implicit, and they just sort of follow, they follow their energy, they follow fulfillment, they follow joy, they find purpose without necessarily having articulated it. When you look back on your journey and where you guys are at, how's purpose shown up for you, for Sarah? What does that look like? How do you think that's helped, if it has, in you achieving what you've been able to achieve?
I like you saying purpose, because that's the whole driver of what I do. My grandfather started a nonprofit. It's one of the longest running nonprofits to help it's called American Indian Services, and he was my hero. And when we started this company, I never knew the amount of impact that it could create, and not just within Hugh and Grace, but within our community, helping within their communities. Purpose for me is really helping people see their potential and seeing that, life can be better than maybe they think it can. Every New Year's, Ben and I go away. My parents watch our kids for a few days, and we read books, and we really distill down what is Ben and Sarah's definition of success. Not as what is the world's, because when I worked in philanthropy, I worked with lots of billionaires and lots of private jets and lots of all these things. But it was interesting because I would work with some my clients, and I would see them sell their companies and go into deep depression or get divorced, and so Ben and Sarah's definition of success is to spend quality time with our kids. We worked really hard to get them in our last careers. We couldn't have spent a lot of time with our kids because we were working nonstop. It is to have a happy marriage. It's to feel like we are making, creating value and impact, and being able to sleep at night. So there's definitely some sleepless nights with stress and stuff there, but really feeling like we are making the world a better place and helping facilitate a lot of goodness and a lot of greatness in this world.
Yeah, well, look, if you combine your definition of success with the things you spoke about with vis-a-vis purpose. I mean, Hugh and Grace is the perfect extension of you guys as individuals in being able to amplify that really world-changing impact, right? Creating a community, creating a platform that ultimately does help people see and realize their own potential, often beyond what they thought might have been possible. And I think that that's the power in it. Is not that it's anybody could have a purpose of wanting to make an impact, right? And little things can make an impact. But when you create a platform and a community that amplifies your vision of what that impact is and enables people to grow and learn and improve and realize their own potential through the process and even reach through beyond that, that really is a complete game changer. And so this is why this is just such a perfect fit to have you on the episode. With purpose, with passion, can come a lot of stress. And I think this is where people sometimes get these things a little misunderstood, because they're like, well, you're following your purpose or you're following your passion. Like, good, that's amazing. Life must be incredible. And of course, it's better than not, right? Because you actually love what you're doing. But because you love what you're doing, that's an incredibly strong emotion, and it makes it really hard when there's setbacks, there's things that maybe come in, and like all the externalities that we have to manage on a day-to-day basis, on top of the things you have to do to build the business, right? So there's a considerable amount of pressure that's probably even further amplified when you're really focused on following your passions and when you focus on following your purpose. And I was interested in, like, how, as a founder or as a founding team, if you like, how are you absorbing that pressure, converting that pressure into progress, or just how are you managing through that when, as you said, your travel schedule is just absolutely off the hook and you've got an incredibly fast-growing company, fast-growing team? How do you handle pressure?
I love the quote that says, pressure is a privilege. So one part of it is mindset.
Yeah.
And saying, it is a privilege that we're able to be in this situation and have a fast growing company, because there's going to be a lot of, companies that aren't. But really setting boundaries. I told you I was supposed to be in 4 states last week, and I canceled 2 of the other states because I said I need to I need to sleep in my own bed for a few nights. And there's also the guilt factor. I'm like, oh, I could have done X, Y, and Z and exposed the business to so many other things. But also, I think it's trusting timing. And if it's maybe not this year, it will happen. There's been too many things in my life where they've just fallen into place without me planning. And like, oh, this is where I'm doing what I'm supposed to do. And if it doesn't happen right now, maybe it's better and it can happen in the future.
Yeah. So that plays in really amazingly to this sort of the serendipity of timing and kind of almost flow, right? And I don't just mean flow in terms of the optimal experience of being in the zone. I mean just sort of when things are going your way, you kind of building momentum, and you still have to make tough decisions, but that there's an openness that comes to that. You have to be open, you have to be present in the moment, right? So even if you made a decision there, you've got to be present in this particular moment, because that's all you have, and you have to be authentic. And I think if you're open, present, and authentic in these moments, that's when things start to come your way. Your energy starts to become a magnet. It starts to attract opportunities, and that's, like you say, kind of trusting the timing. And it's also a mindset thing, starting with the fact that we have this pressure, we created it, and this pressure is what's creating this incredible impact. So that is a privilege. What can we do with that? And that's where you can go from resilience to anti-fragility, which is literally getting even stronger and more resilient under pressure versus just bouncing back from setbacks. So when you think forward and say, well, maybe what's different in 3 years from where you are today, what are some of the priorities that you need to focus on, or the challenges that you need to overcome in order to hit those metrics? If you had to narrow it down to the top 3 kind of challenges that we need to overcome as a team to get to where we want to be, what are those 3 top things right now?
So having a fast growing company that requires inventory, there's fundraising, which I used to be a professional fundraiser. I do not enjoy fundraising. Especially as the inventory orders are larger and larger and larger, and more and more product launches. So fundraising is definitely something that we spend considerable time doing.
Yeah.
I think there's a quote, forget who said it, Ben sent it to me, and he said, "Too many ideas can kill your company." I have so many ideas where we could go, and ideas and collaborations and brand collab. Like I get so excited, and we thankfully from our prior careers have amazing networks and opportunities to grow so many different ways. But Ben's been very, very strong. Yes, we have grown fast. We've grown in a sustainable way because a lot of companies can crash and burn. And so really being wise with our time, where we spend our energy, what our focus is on. I like that you say the word energy. 3 of our products in the morning routine actually help promote natural energy. So it's but really focusing. So really figuring out where our next phase of growth should be, not where it could be, because there's a lot of places, but so being just really strategic with that growth. And then thirdly, we have an incredible team. We hired the right people that we have for scale for growth, but then also looking at the team for the future, because different people have different skill sets for different stages of company growth. And so making sure that we have the right resources and talent.
Three key ones, obviously fundraising being the lifeblood of being able to fund the inventory and growth, and then two kind of people related ones. One is around kind of founder mindset, and that is taking it, like you said, being strategic, right? And I think that is such a key thing, when it's being really clear on what results you're looking to achieve, right? What are the priorities that you focus on to achieve those results, and then what are the actions that you empower other people with that align to those priorities? And there's this, if nothing else, is just a simple game plan around that, so that you keep that focus, because it helps you when if you're energized around ideas, right, and you're always coming up with new ideas and seeing new possibilities, and that energizes you and excites you.
It could exhaust our team.
Of those. And so that is that's one of the areas that we actually focus on at Purpose Fused, which is called Energy for Impact. So in addition to this sort of natural energy that we have, and we can revitalize it through sleep, and obviously through nutrition, and through rest and relaxation and meditation, and all these other things that can help us, if you like, refuel and rejuvenate for that kind of natural energy, there's also an energy around enthusiasm, right? And you'll know, like, fundraising, I won't say sucks the life out of you, but like fundraising is probably energy depleting, but it's a necessity, so you have to do it. Maybe some ideas and possibilities are energy enhancing, right? They pull you, right? And so the challenge with that is, when you see those possibilities, how do they fit into the strategy? What are the priorities, and are there some of these ideas that can fit in here, or actually do they just need to sit in the parking lot for a little while so they don't distract us? Because there's many things you could do, as you said, but it's what are the things that you guys feel you should be doing that are directly aligned to the results that you're looking to try and achieve. And when there's so much impact on the line, it can be a big challenge, right? Because you can justify lots of things as having an impact. So when you look at your team and that future proofing, that last piece, the future proofing of the team, you've got some amazing people. What does that energy look like on the team? When are they most engaged and most enthusiastic, and what do you think maybe the missing pieces that you need for that future team?
It's interesting because we launched during COVID, and so we have a fully remote team. And which has also enabled us to get the best and of employees or our team members. So we come together for our conferences, we come together for incentive trips, but I don't know. We just made a great new hire. I have to think more on that because I'm thinking like 2 and 3 years ahead of time. We just brought in an EVP of revenue who's helped scale some very large companies. We have an incredible strong team right now, but I would have to think more on that because we are very fortunate to have like it's interesting. A lot of consultants or people come to our company, like you've created the company with such a lean team, people who who are so talented and who are passionate. And I tell my team sometimes, I'm like, guys, set borders. You should not be taking calls on weekend. Like make sure there's not burnout, but there's just so much care. And I really do think having a mission, such a mission-driven company, we attracted the best talent because we've had several times where competing companies have reached out with much higher paying offers to our team and they've stayed because they like this is it's a family and I'm sure Hugh and Grace will need therapy at some point, but like it's a real story. It's a real company that's making impact and people want to be part of things like that.
Yeah, and they can see how they're contributing to it, and that's incredible. They've got that passion and compassion to work together and achieve that impact and go above and beyond. That's where you get all the discretionary effort, which is just kudos to you, obviously hiring some incredibly talented people, which is brilliant. So I'm looking at the clock. We've only got 3 minutes, and that means I have to ask you a couple of quick personal questions or questions back to Sarah anyway. And I'll do 2 questions. The first one is an impact question. You've alluded to kind of the impact that you want to have in terms of helping people like grow and realize their own sort of potential in addition to having impact. When you think impact at the world level, because we look at it me, we, and world, when you look at it at the kind of that world level, what does that look like for you? What would be different? What's the kind of the big picture impact that you want to leave behind?
On a global level.
Well, and by global, I mean, yeah, it's just that what's the biggest possible impact you could have that you'd be just like so incredibly proud to have created?
I'm loving that consumers and other B2B people are looking at are really preventive wellness. That people realize that they can make really simple changes in their life that can have some really meaningful impact on their relationships, on their day-to-day, on their longevity, and feeling more hopeful about the future versus feeling scared.
Yeah, here. We need a bit more of that. Gives us a bit of hope, which is brilliant. So your last thing would be just leaving kind of like a parting message, if you like, words of wisdom or a sentence of wisdom. We've got kind of growth companies, founders, leadership teams in the audience here. What is the parting message you would like to leave for the audience here?
I think it's funny because Ben and I never thought we'd ever start a business. I just thought but I thought I'd be a stay-at-home mom of 4 kids. And life does not turn out the way it's supposed to, or the way I thought it would. But looking back, I realized it turned out the way it really should have from what we're creating. And I look at awards. Awards are great, but it took a lot of really hard things to get awards and to get growth. But our family motto, it's not the most elegant, and I laugh when my kids say it, but our family motto is we figure shit out. And as long as you know and have that drive and desire and like Ben and I, like we had a friend, we've been married 23 years and we live in Los Angeles, and none of our friends have married 23 years. And he said, he asked Ben, he's like, how do you guys do this? How do you stay married and work together and travel all the time? And Ben's like, it's easy. And he's like, what do you mean it's easy? He goes, we just decided we're never getting divorced. And so I think sometimes like we can figure the hardest things out, and we will. And so I just having that as a mantra, my 6-year-old says, but it's life is hard.
Yeah.
But knowing that you have people and knowing that you can do it, sometimes we have no clue how we're going to do it, but that we do it.
Yeah. Just knowing that you can. Yeah. And we figure shit out. That's I won't say it's a nice, eloquent way to leave the audience, but I tell you what, it's bloody practical and it's real, and that's the thing. Like you've got to make a decision and you've got to find out a way to get there. And if you can't get there on your own, work out who can help you. And that is literally that's how you create the flywheel for the business, isn't it? And yours is massively amplified by creating a huge impact in the world and helping out people with preventive health that probably a lot of people didn't even realize was an issue. And that is the impact you're going to leave behind, is changing that mindset and the way people behave, which is going to obviously improve loads of lives and hopefully help them figure their shit out. So Sarah, thank you so much. Thank you for joining us, sharing your story, being vulnerable. And good luck with the continued travel and the continued growth. And I look forward to reconnecting with you again soon.
Mark, thank you so much.
Great to see you. Bye-bye.